You are a renowned theater director, so this is your first feature film directorial debut. Was it challenging? Was it a lot different for you?
It was very challenging. It was, of course, it has its own things that it brings with it, but in many ways, being a director is the same thing. It doesn't matter what the medium is. The most important thing is you're working with the actors, which for me is always the journey that they go through is the most important thing. And you're telling a story, but telling it through the eyes of a camera is very, very different, of course, to doing it on stage.
Was there anything new that you had to learn because you're telling it through a camera now and there's so many other people involved?
Yes, you had to really learn to trust the camera. And the camera has its own way of finding things. And it will see things that you cannot see to the naked eye and find things that you don't realize are there. And equally, things that you think you've seen in real life, but then you look on the monitor and it's not there, is a bit of a shock. So the casting process, for example, is very different when you're working in film versus theatre, for exactly that reason, because people, the effect that camera has on them is completely unique. And also really exciting because there are things that you can find and there are things that the camera can do. And you can train, how you can learn how it is that you want things to come across as. But most of all, the important thing is, as I said, is just working with the actors and being allowed to give them the freedom to express themselves and to go on the journey that they want to go down with these characters.
When I watch a movie that is adapted from a book that I have read, I compare the movie to what I envisioned when I first read the book. Mm-hmm. When you first read the book, does it look exactly like how you read it since you are the director?
Well, I read the screenplay before I read the book. So my relationship started with the project as a film. I always saw it as a film first before I then went back and read the book. Of course, then I read the book and I invested in understanding who the characters were with the depth that Jojo managed to put into the book. But my relationship with the story always started as a film. And in many ways, I'm really pleased that it happened that way.
Is it awesome that you also got to have Jojo as your screenwriter because she wrote the book, so you can really trust that she's going to keep all of the important things in the script?
The amazing thing about working with Jojo on this and on the adaptation of it was her ability to leave the book behind. She never, ever brought the book with her. It was always me that went back to the book, which is pretty exceptional, I think, for an author. And she had a willingness also right from the start to to find within the story whatever it was that the film needed. And she didn't worry about how and if that was different to the book, so long as there were certain aspects that are so important to the fans, and so long as we were integral to the story and to the spirit of the book. That was the most important thing for me. So long as those things were there, she was happy to go wherever it was that the film needed her to go in order to get what we needed.
Mm-hmm. When did you know that you wanted to be a director?
Wow, that's a tough question. I think it was probably back when I was a teenager and I started going to the theatre all the time. And I guess I knew pretty quickly that I didn't want to be an actress. But, I loved being able to see what I thought worked and what didn't work. And then there were just certain actors that I always wanted to work with, and that became the beginning of the journey for me.
So once you made that decision, I want to be a director, what exactly did you do?
I went down quite an unconventional route. I didn't train to be a director. I was an assistant to various theatre directors, very, very different ones who taught me various things, mostly how not to do it. And I went from there, and then the last one said, you know what, you can't be an assistant anymore, you need to go off and do it on your own. And so I entered a competition, and that was kind of how it began.
So you never actually studied filmmaking?
No.
You just learned on the job?
I didn't learn theatre either at the beginning.
Did you study anything? Was there a different subject that you kind of
I went to university and I studied French and philosophy.
Interesting. Do you ever use it?
French and philosophy, of course. I don't think philosophy never leaves you, and French was it's a study of literature, so that equally that's probably how I started with the theatre.
What is a normal day like for you as a director on a feature film?
Well, if you're shooting, one of the best things about doing this movie is we were split between, we were at Pinewood and we went on location probably 50-50. So when we were at Pinewood, we had very sociable hours. We did 8 to 6 every day. We did continuous days, so everybody worked all the way through, so we didn't stop for lunch. So you get to set probably an hour and a half before shooting. You prepare for the day, you work all the way through, then you stay for about an hour or so afterwards with key members of the crew to prepare for the next day. You get home and sleep as much as you possibly can and get ready for the next day. And each side of the day, the most important thing was always getting the phone calls from the studio or from producers to talk through everything that had happened the day before.
Do you ever feel like now that you would want to go back for formal education or training to assist you on the job, or do you feel like you kind of know everything that you need to know now?
I don't think you ever know everything, but I think a bit like the University of Life, you learn best by doing it. And with this kind of job, that is without question the best way of doing it, in my view.
What advice do you have for any young aspiring directors?
Just get out there and do it. You can, I mean, studying is fantastic, obviously, but if you ever get the opportunity to do it, you have to just do it because you learn from your mistakes, and that's how you grow and you move on from there. So never be afraid to give it a go.
For teens who really want to succeed, not only as a director, but in this industry, what other qualities or characteristics do you think they really need to have?
You have to have passion. You have to want it more than anything. And you have to be prepared to work extremely hard. And if you're lucky, you work with people who you really, really want to and who you respect. And that will bring out the best in you.
Who would you say you collaborate the most with daily on set?
I would say, gosh, that is really hard actually, because Jojo and I she was on set for most of the time, so we were constantly working with each other. But, you know, with the actors, you never let go, and you are constantly sort of realigning where the journey that their character is going through, where it's at in that moment. But, you know, you work closely with the AD, you work closely with the producer, you work closely with the costume design. You have to work closely with everybody because it's a team. It's a team game, and it doesn't work if it's not that.
Made in Hollywood.
Thanks for watching this interview. As always, don't forget to subscribe and let us know what you think in the comment section below. For the next Made in Hollywood interview, click right here. Do it. Click it.